You are an Ironman, soon to be a Shark Tank millionaire, and at the age of 21, you have overcome so much adversity. The resilience of your spirit is the most important thing.
I really just want to give people with disabilities the platform.
You found your voice so early, and I think you're going to change the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Icehouse. I am the Einstein of Wall Street. We're here in the iconic New York Stock Exchange, the greatest financial institution in the world, and I am honored to be here with Drew Davis. Drew Davis, I could list all of your kudos of all time. You are an Ironman. You are a hot sauce entrepreneur, soon to be a Shark Tank millionaire. You have a 7-figure producing company. You are a voice for people with disabilities, and at the age of 21, you have overcome so much adversity, and you're sitting here today with me, right? I mean, not to blow smoke up mine, but I am the legend. You said it yourself. Yeah. And the fact that that you were inspired by me, that you inspire me to be my best self. And so I'm so happy that you're here with me today. Factor, right?
Thanks so much for having me, Peter.
It's absolutely my pleasure. For me, the human element is the most important thing of anything, and I think maybe that's what we're going to call it. It's going to be called the human element.
I like that,
right? Because we just talked about it, Drew and I, from the first moment. We're just saying, we do interviews. Our lives have become so disconnected with like Zoom ever since COVID, right? Everything was like, social media brought us together in a way, but then we kind of hide behind these phones and stuff, and we don't get to, you're on, you think it's okay to like have a communication or an interview with somebody from on Zoom or something, but when you're face to face, there's nothing like it, right? It's that human interaction of one human being to another. So we're both of us are sitting here so excited to be in this setting here. We're in the iconic New York Stock Exchange, and downstairs here, these are supposed to allude to the candlesticks, right? Obviously, that candlesticks are my world, right? That's all about trading. We're going to get down talking about trading with you. But I really wanted to sort of go back to the beginning, to your first memory. Like, what are your first memories? I first of all, we set the stage here that we were introduced by Brett, and you are on this incredible trajectory of just the beginning of a long journey, right? And I'm just honored to be part of it. Whether it has to do with the comedy, whether it has to do with your entrepreneurship, whether it has to do with Shark Tank, whether it has to do with the hot sauce. There's so many. When you meet somebody and you can just feel it, I'm one of those people you can just sense when there's a connection. It's all about the connection. They call me the connector. I met a guy many years ago. His name was Todd Gray. He was an artist, and he sort of, I was trying to find who I was, my voice, right? And I'm going to talk about that with you too. Is like, when did you find your voice? Because that's not an easy thing to do, right? The rest of us, are not going through a lot of the challenges that you go through, and it's hard enough for us to find our voice, right? And so, what are your first memories? What as a young person, you were born with cerebral palsy. Obviously, what are your first memories?
I think my first memory, unfortunately, that I remember was I was 4 years old in the ICU, trying to learn how to eat on my own. Right. And for those that don't know, I was born 8 weeks early. Actually, my mom was on a business trip. She sold insurance at the time. Her water broke in line for a hot dog at SeaWorld.
Oh my God.
So my whole life has been super interesting since that moment, not being diagnosed until I was, not being diagnosed with cerebral palsy until I was 5.
Till you were 5 years old?
They just thought I was, they were trying to figure out what was up. My first doctor ever just thought I was a lazy baby and was like, that was the term she used. Really? I just think he's like a little like slower and a lazy baby. And my mom was like, no, like something's not right. I ended up getting diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and from then on, my parents always just instilled in me like, you're going to be just like everyone else, and we're gonna treat you as if you are like everyone, because you are. And I think that really helped shape my mindset growing up, because I never saw my disability as a hindrance.
Wow.
I was always taught that it's a superpower.
Right.
You have to there's some things you can't do, but that means you can focus a lot on the stuff you could do really well.
Right.
And really honing in on it and not being afraid of having a disability. So many people are like afraid to show it and talk about it.
Right.
But I've always just thought of it as like an education piece, and I love educating people on something like disabilities because it's not something that's so well known. And
Right.
over 1.3 billion people in the world have a physical disability.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Look, let's talk about it because it's, we're laying it out here on the table. It's for somebody who, I've got a lot of disabilities, perhaps some physical ones, surely a number of mental ones. But, we go through this life, everyone's got stuff thrown at them.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's amazing you said 1.3 billion people in the world have physical disabilities. And I think, people who don't are either afraid to address it with somebody, to come up to somebody. They always are, from our perspective, where we are either people are not paying attention to you, or they're all anxious and they don't know how to act around someone with a physical disability. But that conversation is rarely ever had, and I would imagine it's probably more in our heads than it is in your head, right? Obviously, because you're just somebody who's comfortable with it, talking about it. And it's an education thing. For a lot of problems that we have with other people sometimes when we have lack of communication is just the education part of the puzzle, right? If I knew more about it, if I knew what it was like to be like you, then I would just okay, so you're just like me. You just got a couple of things. Look, I've got so many weird things about, when I went in to get diagnosed when I was a kid, they said it would be easier to tell you what you don't have than what you do have because you got so many things wrong with you. So anyway, all that being said, so that's your first memory, which is, that is amazing because I would imagine that there are, there historically, I know probably in the old days people with different, whether they're mental disabilities or physical disabilities, were sort of shunned off and put away, by their families. They didn't want to be seen. They didn't want to be associated with it. And so, how is your mind? So you started out with this mindset of one of confidence and strength, right? Along the way, though, tell me, what was your first fear? Do you have a memory of when you were sort of confronted by, okay, this is what my parents told me about me, but I'm still scared. I'm so scared to go out there. I'm so scared to confront people.
I think my first fear growing up was, even though I had this confidence, it was fitting in, because I had this confidence, but how are you going to explain to kids that you're just like them when you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade? They don't know what it is. They just see you as different, and it's tough for kids to see past that. So that was always a challenge for me.
Right.
I always thought at times I thought I had to change to fit in when I was younger.
Right.
And then I figured out at the end of the day, the people that are going to be with you are going to love you no matter if you're in a wheelchair or I just wanted to be friends with everybody, and most people were scared to talk to me because of this, because of the wheelchair. And it also didn't help that I was the first ever disabled kid in my small town to be in general ed classes. Right. Okay. So before then, people with disabilities weren't in the same mix as as able-bodied people. So it's the first time they saw it. So you can't judge them, but it goes back to the education thing. For so long, even today, disability is kind of seen as a taboo topic you don't talk about because you don't want to bring up people's struggles.
Yeah.
But the only way to learn is education.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. At the end of the day, how somebody learns how to trade stocks or start a business, it all comes down to education and really learning about it. And it's the same with disabilities.
So look, we talk about, you just talked about difference, right? People that I have a lot of trouble. If you're different than me, suddenly then I either I don't like you, or you're comfortable. You okay?
Yeah.
Okay. If you're different, they don't accept difference, right? So we think of it politically, we think of it in all different ways. And so you're like 12. So let's go back to like Drew at 10 years old, 12 years old. You started. I mean, did going to school, the first day of school had to have been sort of really kind of scary. It's amazing that our world is still. We're just trying to understand disabilities, physical disabilities. Obviously, that's accessibility, right? That's got to be so frustrating, right? For you to go to places where you can't get in if you're in a wheelchair, right? And and it's amazing that it's taken us this long to sort of get our shit together. Excuse my language when it comes to that, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody should, everyone should have accessibility, but I think it's that disconnect that people don't know what's going on in your head, right? That if somebody just there was an advocate for it, and I'm sure there are, and you are one of them for sure. It's like, what, everybody, this is what I need. If you guys, knew what it was like to be sitting on the outside of this building and not being able to get in there, what would it feel for you? And so, I think that we're making inroads. It's the same thing we do with anybody who's different, whether one is gay or in the trans community or whatever it is. I mean, we are always confronted by all the difference that our differences as opposed to our commonalities, right? We probably have more in common than we do different, right? Our only difference is really the fact that you're in a wheelchair and I'm not, right?
And I think like everybody has something they struggle with. Mine just happens to be more visible. And like you said, it's you were saying like it's amazing. It's taken this long to like have all the buildings accessible, stuff like that. But if you really think about it, ADA was passed in 1990. The Americans with Disabilities Act. It's not that old. It's one of the youngest like civil rights movements.
Right.
Still, like for people still. So, but stuff like that takes forever. It has gotten better, and I'm just grateful to wake up and be able to do the things I have been able to do.
Right.
Yes, of course, there's some things I can't do.
Right.
But I mean, it does no good dwelling on the stuff.
You're a cup half full person, not a cup half empty person.
Yeah, let's just find something I can do and do that.
Now, let's put aside one thing, because I think people are thinking that because of your physical disability that you have some kind of a mental disability, which is not the case, right? Cerebral palsy. Can you explain it to us? Just it's completely a physical disability, correct?
So it does physically affect the limbs, but actually, with cerebral palsy is damage to the cerebral cortex in the brain.
Right, it is, okay.
So, but that does not affect me cognitively when it comes to like, it's just like the cerebral cortex is what does the movements and stuff in your body, and so the right messages doesn't get to the right part. They don't fire correctly.
Right.
Or strong enough, which is why I'm not able to do some of these things, or I have spasms or whatever it may be, but in no way does it affect me cognitively.
Right.
And that's like when people hear damage to the cerebral cortex, they think
brain
damage
right,
to the entire brain. No, it's just to that one part of the brain. And this is an important detail because not everybody with cerebral palsy is the same.
Right.
There's people with cerebral palsy, like the comedian Josh Blue, he could walk.
Really?
There's people that can walk with just a limp. There's people that have cerebral palsy and are nonverbal.
Right.
There's people that have cerebral palsy and their hands and legs are unable to move.
Right.
That's why when I look at myself, I still look at myself as incredibly lucky.
Yeah.
Yes, I can walk, but my brain's not affected.
Right.
And so that's the sort of, stuff that I'm super thankful for. Even though I do have a disability, I would say, if anything, I think that disability helped me because it really teaches you to celebrate the small wins.
Yeah.
The first time I blew out candles was like on my 6th birthday, and I thought I won the Super Bowl.
I love it.
Yeah, the first time I blew up birthday candles, I was like, oh my God, I did that.
Right, exactly.
That's such a small thing for a lot of people,
Right.
but for somebody like me, that was huge.
Yeah.
And so I really think whether it's in business or life, it's taught me to celebrate the small wins, which if you set smaller goals and you keep achieving them, it motivates you even more. And I think that's like one of the reasons that I've been able to reach some sort of success. Not a lot of success like you, but
Come on.
some sort of success.
Okay. So, look, you reminded me of that. I was watching Shark Tank, so we were talking before, and you guys are all going to get to hear about his Shark Tank journey, because I'm sure you're going to get on the show. But there was a episode of Shark Tank the other day where someone had designed this tool that we think about it when you were talking relative to blowing out candles. Think about it when we blow out, we got so hyper vigilant about germs around COVID, right? And now if you think about it, the whole Shark Tank pitch was about, think about how paranoid we are about germs and all this stuff. But we go to a birthday party and you're like blowing out the candle that you go, and all this germs are coming out of your mouth, and then suddenly everybody's going to eat this piece of cake, right? So if you think about it now, it's so silly, right? So someone had invented this, it's like it looks like a straw, and it's got it looks like a little plane, and you blow on it and it spins, and it blows out the candle, as opposed to us blowing out the candle and then giving out that cake full of all kinds of germs to everybody, all the kids in the room. Anyway, let's talk about it's amazing you make me feel comfortable. I've done a lot of interviews, and it's funny how sometimes it's, every interview is different, and every person is different. Some people, I've actually had rare situation where I just couldn't get anything out of the person, but you make it so easy to talk about. All right, so let's jump to you at 16, 17. You're going to school. Were you able to feel at home, feel comfortable at one point where you were like wearing the same clothes everybody was wearing, and you would sort of overlook the fact that you were in a wheelchair, that you had your group of friends? I love the fact that I want to pick up on that for a minute, because we all struggle with that. Is people who are going to love you are going to love you, right? I'm one of those boisterous, loud, obnoxious guys. I've been that way forever on Wall Street. I've been here for 40 years. There are people who love me, and there are people who can't stand me. Some people think I'm just like loud, obnoxious, and I'm really a pain in the neck to have in the room. And then there's some who find my act. We all have an act, right? And so it's funny how you develop that, and you are just. You make me feel really comfortable, and so that's kind of cool. So let's jump to you, like when you started, like you talked about it. So at the age of 12, let's go back to this for a minute. At the age of 12, you watched some videos by me, I understand.
Yeah,
right.
I watched some videos by you. That's how and that really motivated me to because you made the stock market so easy to digest, and so I really started getting into the stock market, and that was the year I opened up my first brokerage account. You
put tears in my eyes. Go ahead, tell me.
When my parents opened, the first thing I ever bought was Vanguard S&P 500 ticker symbol VOO.
I love it.
I put at that time I had like $1,500,
right,
and that I saved up, and I put that all into that, and then from the age of 12 to 16, I put more money in, but it ended up growing to $3,000.
Right.
And then, let's because it all moves together. At age 14, I weighed 320 pounds.
Tell us about that. Explain to me what happened. What was going on in your head at that time? You okay? You comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like one of them things. Like I was not letting anybody tell me what I can and can't do.
Right.
But for some reason, the weight loss felt unattainable for me.
Right.
So I just kind of wrote it off as something that that
would eating become an obsession? Was it a comfort thing for you? I mean, obviously, gaining 300 pounds is not an easy thing to do. I mean, obviously, you're in a wheelchair, so you're limited from a physical point of view. But explain
it's a little easier when you're in a wheelchair, but to weigh 300 pounds as a 5, at the time I was 5'6" individual.
Right.
It still takes eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
So
clearly,
no matter who you are. So yes, I would eat almost like an activity, because I didn't know.
Okay.
I couldn't when I was bored or whenever. But I also had really unhealthy food choices. So at the age of 14, I weighed 320 pounds, and my doctors at the time were like, "Man, Drew, you're gonna be bedridden by age 18 if you don't make a change." And I had all these big dreams, and I was like, you know what? It's time to stop using my disability as an excuse and go out there and at least attempt to make a change.
Right.
Over COVID, lost over 150 pounds, and then I ended up at a healthy 150 weight, which is where I'm supposed to be. And then that's when something unlocked in me. The year after that, I had a school project in my first ever business class where we're at a business idea, and because of this weight loss, I ended up getting into hot sauce because it's a low-calorie condiment to put on your food. And I was like, man, I really like hot sauce. I want to, rewrite people's perspective on the disabled community, and I was like, let's do it. And at the time, I presented my business idea under the name at the time, Crippling Hot Sauce.
Right.
And so I presented...
You've always had a sense of humor about this thing.
Yeah, right? Because my whole thing was, I have a sense of humor, I want to show it off, I want to show people who we are. So I present it, I get a bad grade. The reason why is my teacher at the time, he didn't think I could do it for whatever reason.
Really?
So I used that motivation, I ended up withdrawing $3,000 of my savings out of that VOO that I had at 12. Got my first bottle order of 500.
Yeah.
Sold that to family and friends, and then the entrepreneurial spirit was really born. And then fast forward to today, we've sold 500,000 bottles, done multiple 7 figures in revenue, all while donating to people with disabilities, thanks to my foundation, the Limitless Foundation, that provides storytelling equipment and grants to people with disabilities to chase their dreams as well. So that's kind of how it all started. And now, as I've gotten older, my dreams, I was saying, you say this, well, never stop dreaming.
Right.
And my dreams have gotten bigger. So recently...
Well, wait, before you go there, we have a bunch of bottles of the sauce we're going to bring out. But I just want to go back to that. Did you know when you started watching me at the age of, there you go, we're going to bring it out so everybody gets a chance to see this. So it was originally called Crippling Hot Sauce. Okay, I am a hot sauce connoisseur. Thank you so much. So everybody, check this out. There's the original jalapeno.
On this, you can talk about Crippling.
There's the...
that's when because it made sense for
on
the story.
On this format, you can tell the whole thing, and then you can talk about how he had a hot sauce too.
Yeah, so did you know, so you watched me at 12. I inspired you to buy the S&P 5. I feel responsible for this journey for you, and I'm so happy about that you ended up getting inspired to buy the VOO. It grew to $3,000. You run into this teacher. I mean, things all happen for a reason. There are no coincidences. And so I feel really very special that I'm part of your journey all the way. That's so fun. Because, did you know that I had a hot sauce company? Back then, or was it just when we recently talked about?
Yeah, when
it?
we recently talked, I then found out you had hot sauce.
So let's go back to it. So I'll tell you about it. Let me just tell you a little bit about my journey because it's so fun, and we're going to be coming out with a sauce together, Drew and I, and we're going to it's going to be hot stocks as opposed to hot sauce. But it's kind of funny. So when I graduated college, I came back to New York. I started trading commodities. And I had taken a little money that my older brother had given me, and I'd gotten a degree in agriculture, and I got a degree in finance. I moved back to New York from the University of Massachusetts, and I started trading commodities, and I turned $1,500 into $45,000 trading orange juice futures and a bunch of other things. Orange juice, like Trading Places, the movie, right? Have you seen that movie?
I have not.
Oh my God! Well, after this, you're gonna have to watch it. It's a movie with Eddie Murphy, the comedian, right? I'm sure you know. Yeah. But it was a great story about all trading commodities. So anyway, so I ended up coming back to New York. I traded commodities. I was trying to get a master's at Baruch College in business, which I never finished. I've started tons of things in my life. You know, I'm only now in my years. I've been 55 for 10 years, so that's my age. But only now am I sort of starting to become a closer, right? I had always started tons of different things, but I was really never. Now I've been able to surround myself by a team to help me close things because we can start a lot of things. Some people are starters, some people are closers, right? But anyway, so I ended up going to trading commodities. I ended up losing it all in a period of 3 or 4 days. The way commodities trade, if the commodity goes what's called down limit, you can't get out, you can't sell it, and it literally went all the way down until I was completely wiped out. I was left with $800, from $1,500 to $45,000 down to $800, and all I could trade was potato futures. It was kind of a sad day where I was sitting in my apartment, and the only thing I could afford was like a little bit of lumber and a couple of potatoes. But anyway, I ended up going to. It was New York in the 80s. It was kind of a crazy time, and I ended up going to West Africa, and I lived in West Africa for a couple of years. I had a friend who ran an oil company there, and I got into hot sauce. Right? I mean, I always loved Tabasco sauce growing up, but we had a chef, and he would make this incredible homemade hot sauce with fresh peppers and onions and all these kind of things. And when I came home, that was that entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I loved food. I had grown up training to be a chef. When I was 13, 14, I used to spend summers in Europe. I had a godmother who was a great chef. And so there was a period of time where I thought I was going to be a chef. And anyway, I come back to the States. I end up getting my job on Wall Street on March 28th, 1985. And a couple of years later, I was in this hot sauce thing, and I was determined to make up a product. I decided I was going to come out with a hot sauce.
Wait, March 20th, 1980?
March 28th, 1985.
I was like that.
Why?
That's like tomorrow.
Yeah, I know, right? Almost virtually. Oh, that's true, right? We are right around that time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's 40-something years ago. Yeah, I'm about to hit my anniversary. That's true. Thanks for reminding me. March 23rd, 1985 was my first day on Wall Street. It was the day Ronald Reagan rang the opening bell. Anyway, so I was working on Wall Street for a couple of years, and I decided to make this hot sauce. And it was made with Vidalia onions, which are those sweet onions, and there were 2 kinds of hot peppers, and there was like olive oil, balsamic vinegar, French mustard, all kind of honey. It was like a slather, right? It was great over like a chicken cutlet sandwich, or you could saute the sauce. It was great. And so I decided I was making it home for a while, right? Just in my blender. And then I ended up, my brother-in-law was in the food business, and so he took me to the fancy food show. Have you been to the fancy food show yet?
In Vegas? No, we have not.
Okay, so no, there's one in New York, and this summer you and I will go together. We should walk the show and talk about this sauce, because that's really want to go with a hot sauce. So anyway, I called my sauce Johnny Wishbone Secret Sauce, right? That was because I grew up eating Wishbone salad dressing.
Yep.
Wishbone salad dressing is this old American. It's the oldest recipe, trademarked recipe in America. Now the company's owned by Lipton and by Unilever, the largest food company in the world. Anyway, I came out with this sauce, and I decided I would bottle it. So I did kind of like you. We found a co-packer, right? That's how you did it. Now you have a great co-packer, I understand. I look forward to meeting them. But I ended up going going down and I private label. I found a co-packer, and I found a label and I designed it, and it was basically a picture. I want to bring it with you. It was a picture of me with dreadlocks. So we called it a hot sauce salsa marinade in the Jewish Jamaican tradition. It was kind of this Jewish Jamaican hot sauce, and it had Vidalia onions and olive oil. It was really delicious. And you could eat it with chips. You could saute it. You could put it over any kind of food. And I took it to the fancy food show, and it got voted the best of 1,000 sauces. And for a while, the floor of the stock exchange, we trade all day long. We don't really get our lunch break. And so people sort of order in, or they stand over a garbage can and eat a sandwich. And so when I was making the sauce, I decided what I would every day I'd come in and I'd order like chicken nuggets from McDonald's for everybody, and I would bring a bottle of hot sauce, and every post upstairs on the main room of the stock exchange, I would leave some chicken and I would leave some of the hot sauce so that everybody could try my hot sauce, and everybody loved it. So I decided to bottle it. We went to the fancy food show. It got voted the best of 1,000 sauces, and we were in 1,000 stores, kind of like your trajectory. You were doing. I wasn't doing the numbers you were doing. I'm incredibly impressed with those numbers. We'll talk more about that because you obviously are doing it right. And I've tasted the sauce, and it's spectacular. I'm allergic to garlic. So I'm only can have a few of your sauces, but I love the bottle. I love the everything about it. It's got that fun flask thing going on, but the flavor. At the end of the day, it's all about the flavor.
Can you talk about how you became allergic to garlic? Wasn't it because you were...
I was making... Yeah. I'll happily explain it to you. It's funny. So after I made my initial hot sauce, I came out with a couple of different flavors, but I was deciding I was going to make this jalapeno pesto, right? Pesto had become like this big thing. Everyone was eating fancy and eating Italian food. And so I spent 3 months roasting heads of garlic every day in my house, and then taking basil and jalapeno peppers and garlic, and I made this garlic jalapeno pesto that was spectacular. But every day I would roast a whole head of garlic and pour like chicken broth on it and throw it in the oven, and then I would be tasting it. And literally I did that for 3 months until I perfected it. And literally the day that I finally perfected it, my body shut down because garlic is it's a histaminic thing, right? People take it for health reasons and whatnot. It's good for your heart and a number of other things. But the body has an ability to only to be able to accept so much of garlic. And so literally from one day to the next, my body said no more. We shut it down. I started getting really bad allergic reaction to it. And now if I eat it, I get really, really sick. And so, it's a really unfortunate allergy because garlic's in everything. If the real garlic's not in it, garlic powder isn't in it. So I really have to check when I look at a hot sauce. So some of yours do have garlic, but the regular jalapeno one, which is my favorite one, this one has no garlic in it, so I'm good there. I'm wondering if I can't see that small, but anyway, so it was very funny. So the sauce got a lot of press about it. Everyone on the floor was all excited that I'd come out with this sauce, and we were in all. I launched at Fairway, Citarella, all these gourmet shops in Manhattan, and I had it when it was in 1,000 sauces all over the world. And wishbone salad dressing, which now it's you can't trademark a food product, a recipe, because you have to put it on the bottle. Right, but in the old days you could, and so the recipe, the wishbone salad dressing trademark is actually trademarked. And so when I asked a lawyer, and I wanted the name to be Johnny Wishbone's Secret Sauce, Johnny Wishbone was the character that Eddie Murphy plays in one of his movies, and so it was a perfect thing for this Jewish Jamaican character. I had on the label of the bottle, I was wearing like a pinstripe suit. I was kind of going with the Wall Street motif, but with a little Jamaican thing to it. So it was like me with gray dreadlocks and me in a pinstripe suit. So it was kind of like a Wall Street hot sauce thing, right? Motif. So wishbone salad dressing got bought out. Lipton got bought out by Unilever. Unilever is a large publicly traded company upstairs, largest food company in the world. They saw me at a food show, and they came to the factory and to my house. One morning, I get woken up by a phone call from the co-packer. They said that the feds are at our door, and at that point, my doorbell rings in New York, and I open the door, and the feds are there with a cease and desist order, shutting me down because I had trademark infringement, the term wishbone. Now, when I set up the company, I had one lawyer who said, don't worry about it. You're never going to become that famous, so no one's going to bother with it. And then one lawyer said, the minute you get well known, they're going to shut you down. I obviously went with the wrong lawyer. So they shut the whole company down. It was a cease and desist. I had to stop all production of it. And I ended up changing the name to Island Johnny Secret Sauce, but it had lost its momentum. You will see in business and in life, there's that momentum is a big key to it. And sometimes when it's interrupted, it's really hard to jumpstart those things again. And so I tried to jumpstart it with Island Johnny. It didn't work, and I ended up aborting the whole thing. And I haven't made the hot sauce in years until you came along. So I'm so happy that we met, and I think it's really kind of exciting. So let's talk about that. I mean, your entrepreneurial spirit, I really feel so connected to that you took the money that I sort of had something to do with to actually make it. Now, look, it's funny. At the time, I would think when that teacher sort of shut you down and said, oh, you're not going to amount to any of this projects, a nothing burger, la, la, la. And then you showed, sometimes you have these things along the way. There's sort of impediments or bumps in the road, pebbles in your shoe, that end up being there for a reason, right? That was what's inspired you to go ahead and make you wouldn't have done it otherwise, right?
I'm super grateful for him because I run, like I said, a lot of what I do is because people tell me I can't. And so without him, I would not be here today. Yeah. So even though some people are like, man, screw that guy, like, some people, it really is the motivation they need, and did he know I was like that? No. But, once again, everything happens for a reason, and I think it's why.
Have you gone back to him and showed him the sauce?
He buys the sauce.
He does?
He's like.
Has he ever said anything about it? Like, what, I was sort of.
I mean, I don't think a lot, he's not. Like, obviously nobody wants to admit they're wrong. Yeah. But he's seen me on, Kelly Clarkson and all this stuff. So he knows, super proud. We all know each other. I'm from a small town of less than 2,000 people, so it's all good. But yeah, anyway, we've scaled it now to over 500,000 bottles sold and multi-7 figures. And as I've been scaling, my dreams have gotten bigger. It started with me donating to Cerebral Palsy research, and now recently I launched the Limitless Foundation.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So you made the hot sauce. You're making 7 figures. That's a big deal. Now, is the motivation to something? Obviously, you immediately. What I love is when somebody takes a bad situation, turns into a good one, and then immediately gives back. So look, you could be just sort of doing things for yourself and take the money you're making and and take a vacation, but instead of that, you're giving back in a big way, and we know that comes back to you in a huge way. Tell me about the foundation.
Yeah, so my foundation, the Limitless Foundation, funds the dreams of other disabled dreamers that are less fortunate than I am. People that don't have as supportive of a family that's willing to step in and help for free, or don't have the resources they need. So my goal with this is to, I get hundreds of DMs a month that it's like, I wish I could, I have this dream of doing X, Y, or Z. I wish I could start a business, but blah, 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 blah. Right. My goal is to take away the wishing and be like, no, you don't have to wish anymore. Yeah. Because I've always say, insurance covers everything we need to survive most of the time, but they don't allow you to live. Like, they don't cover any of the stuff that would be considered quote unquote a dream. Yeah. And so I really just want to give people with disabilities the platform and the grant and the expertise they need to do whatever they want to do. Right. I know just tell me if I can't talk about it, but after this we're going to Boston next week, and we're giving out a grant to a hockey player that got paralyzed while playing stand-up hockey, and giving him a grant to start his adaptive hockey journey and his dream of that. So that is one of our first grants.
Okay.
And so stuff like that makes me so happy, because when people have a life event like that happen, it's hard not to, just give up.
Say it again.
When people have a life event like that happen, it's hard to just keep going and not just give up.
Right.
Because you're living this perfect life.
Tell me a little more about what happened to this guy.
He got paralyzed while playing stand-up hockey.
Right.
He got I'll find out more of the details, but my understanding is he got hit into. Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. You want to tell me a little bit about how the money was raised?
Oh, so we actually got a DM on LinkedIn from this dad that's like, I want my high school kids to have an internship, but I want them to really feel good about what they're doing. Can my kids do a fundraiser? Can my high school kids do a fundraiser for your
foundation?
For your foundation.
Right.
We took a few meetings. They wanted to do this pickleball for a purpose.
Right.
Guess how much money they raised?
How much?
They raised almost $20,000 as high school kids, just going out there and hustling. And I'm like, man, me when I was in high school, I feel like that was me when I was in high school. But
it's amazing what one person at a time can do, right? We always think we need the big thing, some big donor, but the grassroots stuff really can make a huge difference.
Yeah, and that's what I always explain is not everything has to happen overnight, whether it's with fundraising or whether it's investing, the compounding of just small, you could still call it in the getting small donations over and over again, compounding,
right?
Just like in the stock market,
right.
That really adds up.
Yeah.
What's $20? What if 1,000 people gave you $20 every day of the month?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference.
So it's there's no dream that's genuinely too big. Sometimes the only thing that's lofty is the timeline that people have.
Right.
And that's what motivates them. So after, I started to grow up and I realized my real dream.
What is your real dream?
I realized my real dream is the Limitless Foundation.
Okay.
And that's really what I wanted with Crippling. I just didn't have the resources at the time to do that.
Right.
So I started with Cerebral Palsy research, now the Limitless Foundation, and now we recently rebranded or had a brand evolution to Stacked under the tagline, when the odds are stacked against you, stack the odds in your flavor.
It's genius. It's such a great line.
And people are loving it.
Yeah.
Because, it goes from, this is just a gimmick sauce of somebody making fun of his disability to something that has real purpose, real meaning.
Yeah.
And that is the entire reason that is the entire purpose I had for Crippling in the first place.
Right.
It's just, for a lot of people in the disabled community, it is really in your face. Yeah. Some people don't have the same sense of humor. That's fine.
Yeah.
And a lot of people loved it, but this just encompasses, the name of Stacked encompasses my mission and my story more than I could ever think.
Yeah.
And like I said, life is all about evolving. So I think one thing a lot of people, they're scared to evolve and become.
Well, nobody likes change. Look, I'm somebody. Change scares me. I really have to be sometimes pushed into it. I would imagine it's you
too.
go through that all the time, right? We all do that.
And so, but in order to grow and develop, especially, I'm not even 21 yet.
I know. I'm baffled by that because I feel like I'm talking to somebody who's already been in business for a long time.
So, making sure I have a great support system and team that makes sure, they push me every day to become the best version I can.
Right.
And, my main thing I tell everyone around me is make sure at whatever thought we have, that mission is always at the forefront. Right. Because that's what really makes us stand out.
My son, when he was a kid growing up, he made everybody was told to make a business card, and everyone just put their name on it, and his business card said, "I'm the exception to the rule." That's kind of what you want to stand out. We all have to stand out. That's how it makes. I will make a commitment to you that I would love to partner with you on the hot sauce thing. I think you and I could come up with my version of my sauce and yours. We could do a group drop. Like like Einstein's hot sauce, hot stocks, and stacked, and then we'll give some of that money to charity.
I'm excited
and I'll support the foundation. I think it'll be great. I got to make you some of mine. I just working on my new kitchen, so I'm going to make you some really soon. You will love it. But I've been enjoying it. I actually ate a bunch of it last night. It's funny. I think people need to also know that if people are dealing with weight loss, hot sauce is one of the greatest things to add. It has no calories in it, and it's a great thing to add. I want to talk about you wake up some mornings and I was thinking about it this morning when I was setting up to come and meet you and interview you, and how I've had a lot of physical challenges over the last number of years. I got COVID March 15th. I just actually celebrated my 6th year since I got diagnosed. My first COVID. I was like patient zero for COVID, and on March 15th, 2020, and I ended up getting meningitis. So I do have an identification with some brain issues because of my brain filled with fluid, and my whole cervical spine collapsed, and I've had 7 neck surgeries. I was in a neck brace for 5.5 years. And so I have some identification with that, with brain issues, and you can see that I'm always sort of working my hands because I have a lot of issues with. I lost use of my arms when from my spine collapsing from COVID and from the meningitis, and so that's why they had to rebuild my whole cervical spine with a titanium rod. So I'm bionic. I'm the bionic guy. But I was thinking about it this morning that I really have to really work hard because I'm still in a lot of pain. I've been like a year and a half ago I was fairly bedridden. I couldn't really get up and move with all of the surgeries. I have I've been cut open here so many times, and so I have trouble with swallowing. You can hear it in my voice is gravelly because I have a titanium plate in the front of my trachea. But do you ever have those mornings where you just wake up and it's just like you look in the mirror and you go this is so hard. I don't know if I can do this anymore. I'll let you talk, but I have a young daughter, and she looks at me and she sees me, and I've been around for a couple of 24s, and she'll go, she'll see me struggling, and she'll go, I wake up in the morning and I'm really anxious, and I'm afraid about I'm dealing with all my fears and anxieties about everything. And I said, sweetheart, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm somewhere in my 60s, even though I'll never admit my age, and I still get that. I wake up in the morning with those same butterflies, like nervous about interviewing you or nervous about coming to work, even though I've been doing this every day for 41 years. We're still going to do that. Do you have those mornings? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, of course, whether it be, obviously having a disability and also compounding that with being in the startup world, even though I'm really confident and love what we're doing, there's sometimes that, of course, you want to give up. Yeah. But that's where the mission comes in. And that's what I said. It's so important to be more than just about profit, because, profit it's not gonna, after a while, it's not gonna wake you up.
It has its limitations.
Yeah, but that mission to keep you going, yes, that, and also that's important. As a startup founder, I've never taken $1 from the Icehouse yet.
Right.
It's all reinvested for compound growth. So I think that's also really an important detail. But the reason I still keep going is because of that mission. Because I think of young Drew and how, like, I wish I would have had somebody like. My goal is to be the person I wish I had growing up to look up to, because there's 1.3 billion people in the physically disabled community, and most people can't name 5 as like the pillars of like the disabled community like to look up to.
Right.
It's just like I want to put more people in the disabled community on a pedestal, because it's not just me. There are so many talented people that I've met. Somebody I know who has SMA.
What is that?
Spinal muscular atrophy. Name is Chris Robb. In the food and beverage industry, he has multiple $billion exits.
No way. Wow.
Nobody knows who he is though.
Yeah.
He invested in Poppy, the
new beverage that just came out. They got for $1.2 billion or something. Yeah, right.
He invested in Siete. He just had a exit for Bachan's barbecue sauce.
Right.
So that is somebody that people should know.
Right.
But they don't. So it's like telling those stories, making sure. One of the things I don't want is people to think like I'm not the only one. I'm just showing people what's possible and making the conversation around disability humorous and digestible, just like you did about stocks, because that is so important. Education is so important, but I think these days some people are too worried about offending people or taking people too seriously. Differently able, able-bodied, that. It makes people nervous and avoids the conversation altogether. I'm
so glad you brought that circle around. Sorry to interrupt you. About that is, my secret sauce, as you say. Take some of your the troublesome parts of your personality and make them your superpower, right? And that is what I've been able to do. I mean, that is my mission, right? That is what gets me up in the morning, because there are mornings where I get up and I just want to roll back over and just go, I don't want to do this another day.
Hit the snooze button.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so true. But you know what? There's the mission of motivating and inspiring the next generation of people to invest. To hear you talk about that was one of your inspirations, is that makes my day. I mean, my day, I can't get any better than that. That means, look, my parents were Holocaust survivors, okay? They spent, they had a wonderful childhood. They ended up spending 4 years in prison. Everyone in their family was killed, taken to gas chambers, and they came out. It's probably one of the things that's embedded in my DNA. They came out, a lot of people came out, similar to probably people with disabilities, came out as victims, right? Many people survived the war but didn't survive it in their minds, and they came out and they were really angry and they hated everyone, and they ended up being really lonely and in a dark place. My parents met each other, they fell in love, they found their American dream, they came here, and they taught me that the human element, the resilience of your spirit, is the most important thing, and that you can't let the things that happen before you define you at all, which is and all the stuff that you're carrying around in that backpack, right? Drop the rock, right? That's not going to define you, and you're not. Go ahead.
I think that is so important, because obviously, like, people are like, how you make it through. But I'm already here. You got no option but to make it through. So are you going to make the best of it, or I only have 2 options.
Right.
Make the best of it or be miserable about myself. And that's what I try to remember. Like, my struggles are nowhere near as somebody like that grew, but the fact that, you know, I think it's a similar message, not just with people with disabilities, but able-bodied people, is just keep pushing, because it's a statistical anomaly that you're even here in the first place. What is it, like 1 in a couple trillion odds that you are born on this earth with all the genetic makeups and the chances that your mom met your dad?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I just remember that being here, not only being here, but being in the best country in the world with the most opportunity, how much of a blessing that is. Yeah. Even for me being born with a disability, because like people, for instance, in Africa, they get pushed around in wheelbarrows. So I am so blessed the fact that
you have a wheelchair.
Yeah,
right? It's a cup half full.
It is all about perspective.
It could be worse. I was brought up that way.
Yeah.
That when I would sit and complain about anything, my parents reminded me of what they went through to get to where they are, and go, you know what? And that's one of the greatest impetus for me, is that for everybody who's going through something, there's somebody there who's either done it before or is in a situation that's way worse, and that they can help them out. You know, it's like we talk about it in the recovery field. People who are dealing with addictions too. That somebody who's been, has dealt with their addiction for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days can help somebody who's got 1 day, right? We are, and the fact, I'm so proud of you that you've taken your disability and turned it into an asset, right? And that you're immediately turning this. I see it very often in people who I have motivated in the trading space. There are those who just sort of, they learned about trading from me, and I really appreciated how you said that I make it accessible, right? I make it fun, right? And that's what I want to do. I do that with my partner Dan Ives. We have a podcast about tech, right? Everybody's all into the whole tech thing, and he and I kind of break it down. But that's sort of the most exciting thing for me. You are an inspiration, and so as I said, growing up, my parents would just say, there's the fact that. So there's this new trading community of people who are out there making a whole bunch of money. Young people who are now have the opportunity to trade. And a bunch of them are just sitting around. They made a bunch of money and they're just off, showing off on social media their fancy pants. And then there are those who already are like yourself, are creating communities to help other people. I'm not somebody who really needs to be standing on that mountaintop all by myself with a whole bunch of, stacks of money and stuff. And how much more fun it is to have. You've created a great team around you. I'm incredibly impressed by the people who you already at such a young age you have people on your team that have your best interest, that you already have that motivational sort of DNA in you, that you're on a mission, and tell me about what's next for you, right? I know you're talking about Ironman and making your wheelchair the fastest F1 wheelchair on earth. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it takes a team to win a championship, not just one person. So, got a bunch of crazy, cool things coming up. April 18th, becoming the youngest, if I complete the Texas North American Championship Ironman, I become the youngest disabled person in the world to ever do so. At the age of 20, we are giving out. Our goal is to give out 10 grants this year for the Limitless Foundation in our inaugural year. Doing stand-up comedy.
Talk to me about stand-up. You obviously don't take yourself too seriously, and I love your sense of humor. But let's talk about the stand-up thing.
Yeah, comedy has always been a passion of mine. Why? Because it is the most. I tell people it's the most accessible art form. I, just like anybody else, can use my humor and know I'm just as good as anybody. There's so many things in life that I'm not on the same playing field as people, and that's fine. But when somebody, whether they're mute and they have a voice box, or they have Down syndrome, or they have Cerebral Palsy, and they can get up there and use their humor, and everybody laughs at the jokes the same. It is the most, it's super duper accessible, and the art form, and I call it like a very digestible language for pretty much everyone out there.
Right.
And more than that, the comedians are some of the most supportive people in the world, like, because they get the come up. Comedians, they've been through the grind.
Yeah.
One of my first ever supporters on social media, Matt Rife. But not only that, but on the disabled side, like these pioneers, I feel like that the first pioneers like Josh Blue, they started the whole, disability humor lane. I wouldn't be here without people like them. They started moving that needle, and it really helps people like me come in and support their message. But without people like Josh Blue or without people like Aaron Belial, that never would have happened. So I really love the comedy space, and it's like therapy for me to get up there and see people smile and forget about the struggles they've been having, and even if it's just for an hour, if they can laugh and
laugh at themselves. I mean, that's obviously that's where the playing field is the same. That we're all like think about it though. I mean, comedy is a powerful thing. Think about the so many comedians are coming from a dark place, right? We know that, and coming from their struggles, right? Unfortunately, we've lost way too many of these amazing comedians whose just lives were, I mean, they found humor as a way of an outlet for something that was incredible pain for them. So, but for you, you're incredible. I could not be more excited. You have my commitment on the hot sauce. You have my commitment on Limitless. I'm super excited about that part of it. As far as Ironman and all those things, you're an amazing inspiration to anybody. I know my struggles physically, and look, nobody gets out of here alive. Right, we know that, and we're here for not for a long time, but for a good time. The fact that you're only 21 and that you've accomplished so much, and you're somebody that I think anybody will want to have in the room with them, right? You want to be in the room where it happened, and so that's kind of, I feel really honored that you're here. You're here in the most iconic place. I mean, did we realize we're sitting here in the vault? The amount of history,
dude. This
right?
place is awesome,
right? It's
and the
amazing.
candlesticks.
And the candlesticks
hopefully
are wild.
these are green candlesticks.
Yeah, hopefully they are green candlesticks. You know what? Every red candlestick turns into a green one eventually. Yeah. But you know what? But the fact that we're sitting here, in the most history is something for me that is so amazing that I love to. I've tried to spearhead the acknowledging that the stockbroker, right? We're living in this world where technology's taken over a lot of stuff, right? I don't think we're going to get outsourced by robots, but the human element is sort of weaning in so many different industries where technology is sort of taken over. And one of the things that I am a big proponent of and fighting is to keep the human element here at the stock exchange, right? Oh. That the broker, right? There are people now who just can use some robot or they can use an algorithm. They don't need a broker anymore. And so one of the big things one of my missions is to say that the human element and actually using a broker and celebrating the broker. There's something you don't know about, but there's a gentleman who started he's a gallery owner and an artist in Florida, has made a full statue of me. Right, he's a big Einstein fan, and he was somebody who donated some work to my gallery on the 6th floor of this building called the Big Board Art Hall. And so he had a statue of me made, which is a full replica. It's 5'7". It's a little bigger than me, so it's my aspired height. But it's been bronzed, and he's donating it to the stock exchange. And so the stock exchange has agreed to actually put it in the VIP entrance. And so in April, you're going to have to come back, because in April we're going to have a ribbon cutting, and the press is going to be here, and we're going to have this whole thing celebrating the broker, 100+ years of the stockbroker, and it's not about me, I mean, I do have an ego, and I'm happy that I've been able to spearhead this thing as one of the longest standing broker, but I'm here to celebrate the broker and the human element in this industry, which is so much more important. I don't know about you. I don't want to get into a driverless car. There are three things I want people to be involved in. Like if I'm flying a plane, I'm driving a car, or my money. Yeah. Right? I kind of want my money to be run by a human.
Yeah, I mean, me too. And not even to mention the history behind the stock exchange. I'm a huge, keeping the history as intact as possible, you know? You don't want to flip the whole stock exchange on its head, but as far as driverless cars go, I think some people would be better off with the driverless car. Right. If you see some of the people out on the road,
the way they're driving.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'd be willing to give it a shot.
I bet.
Driverless cars as somebody with a disability, as long as they're safe,
you're absolutely right. I didn't even think of that. Yeah.
Would be a huge asset. However,
huge asset.
Do I think most cars should be driverless? No, because we see what happens with some of the driverless cars today sometimes.
Yeah, right. Well, it's technology. They'll come in the future. Anyway, you know what? You and I could talk forever. There's so many great things. I think everybody should be out supporting you. And the fact that you are giving back so early and so young, and that you have so much prospect, and congratulations on I think I'm so happy. I want to come out and hear you do comedy. I think it's great. Everyone should check out this hot sauce. It's incredibly delicious. And follow your journey. You know, you have you have many years of success to happen, and the fact that at this point already you've already gone through so many of these trials and tribulations and all these bumps in the road and pebbles in your shoe, and you've leaped over them leaps and bounds ahead of about anybody. And the fact that you're giving back and you're going to be a voice, it's all about finding your voice, right? We started the conversation with that, and you found your voice so early, and you're wearing a lot of different hats, so you got a bunch of different voices, and I think you're going to change the world. Hey, so let's talk about it. You know, we were talking about the different things. First of all, I want everyone to know how they can reach you. Obviously, the hot sauce is out, and so there's a couple of parts of that. So if you love hot sauce, please find it. It's called Stacked. It's got the sweet habanero, barbecue spicy, teriyaki sweet and spicy. The only one I believe I can have is the original jalapeno, and it's spectacular. I had it on yellow rice and shrimp last night, and I had it with shrimp and lobster sauce the night before. It's great on everything. So I want to be able, how do people find the hot sauce? Is it going to be available in retail?
Retail eventually.
Okay.
We're building low and slow online, building the community, you know.
Okay.
First,
and as far as, but it's online. You have a website.
Stacksauces.com.
Stacksauces.com.
It's on Amazon and it's on Walmart.com.
Okay.
Basically, any of the major websites where
where you find your hot sauce. So I was in the food business for 30 years as a distributor, right? And I produced a number of different products besides my own hot sauce, which we discussed. But I spoke yesterday. My brother owned one of the largest food distribution companies in the Midwest. It was called Lapari, and they have 8,000 stores. And I spoke to a friend of mine who is a broker in the Midwest, and they said they would be happy to take on your sauce.
That's awesome.
Right? So I spoke to them yesterday. They're called J. Weisberg and Sons. So in the Midwest, the way the hot sauce company works in the way the food business works in the Midwest is you need a broker, right? Some places you do direct B2B, right? You get into it, you have a distributor, right? And they drop the sauce off. But in the Midwest, the chains are these small 40, 50 store chains throughout the mid-Atlantic states. And so you need a broker to basically slack out, the product, to stack the shelves, to do promos and demos and stuff like that. You kind of need a broker to basically highlight your product. So these guys, JW Sales, I'm going to introduce you to them, and they're going to bring the sauce on to as many of their stores that they distribute to 8,000 stores throughout the Midwest. A lot of these nice mid-range chains, right? And so I'm super excited. I spoke to them yesterday, and they said they would be happy to take on the product. Awesome. So that's another thing. Awesome. So then tell me about, so I understand that you did a drive around the United States. Tell me about that.
Yep. 10,000 miles.
I love the look on your face when you have these fun little...
But before this past year, I've never really left my small town of...
Where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born, actually, like I said, I was actually born in a hospital in San Diego.
Okay, right. And your mom was on a trip, right.
I grew up I went to a different school, but I grew up in a town called DeSoto, Missouri.
Okay.
All my family lives in Hillsboro, Missouri, the town over.
Okay.
And it's really, just a farm, town.
Really?
Nobody's really known for being an entrepreneur or having that entrepreneurial
Is there like
spirit.
one main street that goes through the town, and it's got
Yeah.
like a drugstore and a shoe store it's like that.
We have a Dollar General, a Walmart,
right,
and that's basically
and a
it.
gas station,
Yeah, and one restaurant.
and one restaurant. What's the name of the restaurant?
It's called Smoke and Pie.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
like a
God.
barbecue joint.
And are they carrying the sauce yet?
Actually working on that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's
If I may make a suggestion, the organic grassroots approach to getting your product into like small little restaurants, small little shops. I'm going to try and help you get into, there's a place called Wegmans, which is a big chain here in New York, right? And I know Danny Wegman and those guys. So I have so many fun connections. I really look forward to doing that. So tell me about the Drive Around America.
Yeah, so since I haven't really left my small town, as a dreamer, I go big or go home.
Yeah.
So I said, what better way than to stuff me, my assistant, and my camera guy in a van, and then drive that van across the U.S.
Right.
And it was 10,000 miles.
Where'd you start?
We started in St. Louis, Missouri, and ended up in New York.
Okay. Did you
Actually,
go down and around? Did you go down and around?
The first time we met.
You were on the trip?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so exciting.
And we made stops. We went to San Francisco for the Super Bowl, where I met Guy Fieri.
No way. Okay, great.
And we stopped in 40 different cities over 40 days, and
did you do a city a day? You were on that kind of literally, and you were where were you sleeping in the van?
No,
you stayed in a hotel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we were like trying to find the best local restaurant in each city, and pitching stacked, and all to try to raise $100,000 for my foundation to give out 10 grants.
Right.
Because my goal in my inaugural year of this foundation is to give out 10 grants worth of 10 grants
worth 100,000.
Yeah, worth 100,000.
And so, how can people find you? What is for the foundation?
The LimitlessFoundation.org.
LimitlessFoundation.org. Okay,
Yep.
and that's online.
Yep.
I want to hear all about the highlights of the trip. Okay, we started in Missouri. We started in St. Louis.
We started in Missouri.
Okay, in St. Louis, Missouri.
Then actually, first St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah,
not
right.
Kansas City.
Right.
We don't claim. No,
Right.
again. Just playing. We went to Miami first.
Okay.
Because I went to Formula E. It's
It's a car race.
Yeah, it's the competitor of F1, but for electric.
Okay.
It sounds like spaceships when they're racing the
Really?
track. It's crazy.
Okay.
And the full race is only like an hour and a half long, as opposed.
And now what I've understood. I understand you're going to build for you the fastest wheelchair on the planet.
Yep.
You're going to be like the Jetsons, right? This
Yeah.
is like we grew up with the Flintstones, and now you're going to be like you're going to catapult us into the Jetsons.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Yeah. I always have these crazy ideas, and I
No.
remember one time I texted in one of our group chats. It was like, "What if we made the world's fastest wheelchair?" The current record is 67 miles per hour.
Really? Okay.
And how about we do a 69 mile an hour wheelchair?
Right.
And I just said it as a joke, thinking, and I get a reply back like, why isn't that possible?
Right.
And that's kind of the mentality us as a team we have. Like,
Right.
anything's
There's
possible.
no right. You just.
And a few months later, ended up meeting this lady that owns the Valuable 500, which is like, she put together a conglomerate of 500 of like big worldwide companies that come together and speak on like disability and inclusion and fight for that in the workplace.
Right.
And she invited us to Japan, and that's where we met the CEO, Jeff Dobbs, in Japan.
So you've traveled the world.
Now I went from not leaving my small town to being.
And so the rest of the trip, did you actually go to the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh, you didn't get to the Super Bowl. Okay. So you went to Miami, then you went to
San
San Francisco.
I own a bootstrap startup.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not spending your money for you yet.
Yeah.
Okay, but you will.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of the trip.
We then headed over to San Francisco for the Super Bowl, where met Guy Fieri.
So how'd you meet him? Tell me.
So he follows.
What's the name of the show?
Guys.
No, the ones something and something. Diners and dives, right? Yeah. Drive-ins, diners, and dives.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Guy Fieri and I. This is Drivers, Diners, and Dives.
Yeah. So actually, he started following me on social media.
He did. Yeah. He's a good guy. I've met him a couple of times.
A year ago. And
yeah.
He always throws the Super Bowl party with.
He loves hot sauce.
Yeah, and so I was like, what if we just, I know that we have a connection with the people that throws parties. I'm like, what if we go? And we ended up going and ended up meeting Guy Fieri. And I was like, hey, Guy. And he noticed me right away. He's like, oh, my God, that's the hot sauce king. And awesome. he signed a bottle for me. And as somebody with a disability, concerts aren't optimal, especially when everybody's standing and it's not a sit-down concert, because I can't see over people.
Right.
So I figured that out. It was my first ever, concert, time I was, really at a festival.
Right.
So I figured that out. I ended up finding him. I'm like, Guy Fieri, I can't see. Can I get up on stage? And he's like, oh my God, yes, of course. And the next thing I know,
you're on stage.
I'm on stage with. He was just so accommodating and one of the most down to earth guys I've ever met.
Really, a humble dude. He came down to the floor once.
Yeah.
And we met. It's a fun thing there's some people out there who are full of themselves, and some people are just, they're incredibly well known and famous, and they're like the most humble, wonderful people in the world.
Yep.
You're going to find that, and I hope that's your experience. Okay, so we're through San Francisco. Where else did we go?
And then we went back. Then we went to New York, where we met this legendary guy on Wall Street named Peter Tuchman, and I don't know if you ever heard of his story.
I heard a little bit of his story.
Yeah,
I heard he's got a great hot sauce, only comparable to Stacked.
Yeah. He and then we met Gary V.
Tell me about Gary V. I've met him a number of times, but an incredible, obviously the marketing king. But
one of my favorite people. He's another person that doesn't matter if you're disabled or not. He's one of those.
He's the real deal.
Like you, he won't BS you. He'll tell you what he actually thinks. He's just one of those people that will give you real advice, no matter if it's
painful or not.
Yeah. And that's the sort of people I love. So many people, whether it be because of my disability, they're afraid to tell me what I need to hear.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But people like Gary V, people like Peter, you guys are, you're realists. You give real advice. So he's one of my favorites as well, down to earth.
Yeah, he really is.
He had his mom. So if you don't know, his mom, he came over from Russia at 4.
Right.
He became a fan of the Jets, and all of his friends had a Jets jersey, but he couldn't afford one, so his mom hand-knitted him a Jets jersey, and he still had that hanging up in his office.
No way.
So it's really, really,
humble
that
guy.
was really cool to me, and just people at all levels have dreams. His dream is to still still to this day is to own the New York Jets. And that's what I mean. There's dreams at all levels.
Yeah.
Gary's worth hundreds of millions of dollars,
Right.
but hasn't reached his dream yet. And that's what's I think when you achieve your dream, they should just keep expanding.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like if you aren't dreaming, you're dead. And
Got to keep dreaming. You never know
and
how
life is
big-
long.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, you know what? Look, I think we have so much that anybody can, they can follow you on the sources. They can follow your journey. You're at 21 years old. You're here on the stock exchange with me.
I'm not even 21 yet. I don't.
You're not even 21
July.
yet. All right, so you haven't had a legal drink yet, right? But you know what? But you can still trade the stock market. You know what? I would love to make a commitment to you is that I think I need you to start like day trading the market. I think it would be a great way to put a couple $100 a day, a week, a month in and help we build the foundation with that. Because, the stock market has become over the last number of years since COVID incredibly accessible. Right, we learned to trade futures. Right, last night we did a webinar, masterclass with my partner David Green, who started with me on Wall Street the same day back in 1985. And there's a ways for you to learn how to day trade. I bet you would be great with these candlesticks.
Yeah.
So these basically the candlesticks identify support and resistance in a stock. Why do people use technical analysis? Technical analysis is the art of charting. It's the historic data and the day-to-day movement. It's the price action that determines when a stock is going to go up and when a stock is going to go down. Except when there's a crazy tweet coming out of the White House, which can completely dislocate
And
the
you're
whole
like,
market.
gosh darn it.
Right. Like you can be in a trade for all the right reasons, and then I always say we're one tweet away from Crazy Town, right?
Yeah.
Right. That's a Guy Fieri always said, right? Doesn't he call it Flavor Town?
No, Flavor
Town.
Close enough.
Well, you know what, ladies and
Crazy
gentlemen,
Town,
we're going to
Flavor
wind this
Town.
up because this is what we're talking about. This is Flavor Town. Go get yourself stacked. Go check out Drew Davis. And you know what? You're
Or
my new idol.
Or
And
should
you
I
know
say
what?
Flavor Vault?
The Flavor Vault. This is where we do the hot stocks stacked Drew Davis Flavor Vault.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming and joining us in Flavor Town.